So a lot of people have questions about the authenticity of the Quran, and this is something I didn't necessarily know a whole lot about until I had to. I was in kind of a conversation with a couple of evangelicals, and they were claiming that the New Testament was the best preserved kind of ancient text or whatever. And so I said, well, maybe it is. I don't know. And so I started kind of investigating, and at first, the numbers that people throw around, they have to do with how many manuscripts there are. So what's a manuscript? Manu from hand, a script, writing. So we're talking about a human being sitting down, writing something, right, for the first time. And then they get copied, right? So then there's copies of copies of copies. So basically you're kind of in like, a detective trying to follow it back to get to the first manuscript, or to get to a certain time period and see how many are there, right? So it's not necessarily significant if they say that the New Testament has 5,000 manuscripts. That might be a significant number or might not be, depending on when were those manuscripts written. Are they written 500 years after Jesus? If they are, then that's not that significant. That means that there's 500 years that are unaccounted for, right? What happened in those 500 years? What changed? We can't tell unless we have a paper trail or some sort of oral tradition verification like we have in Islam, but that's another video. So if you go to, so I started looking, and basically what I found was that if you try to find how many manuscripts exist for the New Testament that can be dated within 100 years of the life of Jesus, there's only one, really. And the second question that you have to ask that's significant is, okay, that manuscript, how much of the current text is represented in that manuscript? Are we talking about, is this manuscript like a whole copy of the New Testament? And this one particular manuscript is the size of a business card, and it contains a single verse of John, the Gospel of John, on it. Right? So not very significant at all. You don't really get very many manuscripts of the New Testament until you get into the 250s and the 300s, especially after the Roman Empire converted to Christianity. Then you get an explosion of manuscripts. Now everybody's doing it. Everybody's writing down the New Testament, producing copies and copies and copies. But that doesn't really help us, right? When it comes to, okay, Jesus existed from this date to this date, and then there's this time period where the record goes blank. There's no paper trail, there's no oral trail, we don't know who said what to who, and then some point 200 years later, 250 years later, 300 years later, somebody writes something down. That's basically what we have when it comes to the New Testament. And so you can tell this is not a very reliable source of information, right? We have even the names of the people who supposedly wrote the Gospels. It's not written on there. It's not saying, well, this is right. This is a lot of speculation. This is a lot of reading into things, and it's not really found on fact. And there's scholars who deal with this specifically, like Bart Ehrman and these guys. When it comes to the Quran, then I had to look into the Quran. Okay, what I found with the Quran is that the Quran comparatively is obviously a lot better and thus more authentic as a text than the New Testament. So there are over 50 existing manuscripts in various libraries throughout the world and in private collections that can be dated to within 100 years of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And of these, okay, then the second important question, okay, over 50, that's much more. How much of the Quran is represented in these manuscripts? Over 96% of the Quran is represented. Just some things, pages missing here and there. Okay, great. How much difference is there between those manuscripts and what the Quran that we hold in our hands today? Basically nothing. The occasional typo, right? And there's a website that collects all this information we can link to. But so I set out to kind of look into these things, and I found something that I had a hunch about before, was that the Quran, even if you just take the manuscript evidence, is way more authentic as a document, as a text, than the New Testament or any other text that I'm aware of from that time period or earlier. And that doesn't even get into our oral tradition and the way that we authenticate the oral tradition.